how kids and teens can overcome verbal insults. This video has tips and tools to help. Hi, I'm Annette. So what exactly is a verbal insult? Well, it's any kind of communication that directly or indirectly causes any kind of personal abuse. So to give you an example of a direct example of a verbal attack, that's things like name calling, very personal attacks on that individual. An example could be someone calling somebody else fat or ugly, or that everyone hates them, or that they've got no friends. Could be those very personal attacks. Indirect is a little bit more difficult to detect. It's more a case of banter, light teasing, nothing really you could perhaps grasp as much as that personal and direct insults and abuse. An example, do you really think you should be wearing that with your ass? See what I mean? It's nothing really that's so personal, but it's got that underlying tone that would make somebody feel guilty or self-conscious or just really unhappy with themselves. And that's one of the issues of insults, is there to actually control an individual and manipulate them in one way or another, and definitely shouldn't be accepted. But how do you stop a child or teenager being controlled by those verbal insults and attacks? Here's tip number 1. First of all, don't take it personally. Now, I know that's much easier said than done, especially when those verbal insults are coming towards that individual. But it's a bit like this. Just point your finger for me. You can point it at me, I don't mind. So you've got one finger pointing forward. Where are the other 3 pointing back to? Indeed, yourself, or me in my case. You can release your hand. And what this really means is quite often somebody will try and control and manipulate through verbal attacks by paying their pain forward. So they may try and physically point their finger, but also point their finger using verbal communication, insults and attacks. And what they're really doing is paying their pain forward because there's things that they are totally not happy about themselves. So perhaps a child has more academic success than they do. Or perhaps they're prettier, more beautiful, they're one of the cool kids, they're really popular. Whatever it might be, they're trying to control and manipulate because they're not feeling satisfied and comfortable with themselves. So by not taking it personally, what we're actually doing is saying, well, it's them, not us. That can be really helpful. Tip number 2. Okay, ask a question. One of the things people don't necessarily realise so much is the power of communication done in the right way. Now, the person that controls the question controls the conversation, which means that if we were to ask a question, or a child or teenager was to ask a question when a verbal attack or abuse was coming in the right appropriate way, then what that actually does is start to shift the control back to them and shifts the hierarchy of perhaps the power that somebody was trying to have over them. So to give you an example, should we stop this now or should we do something else? Now that's a very powerful, important question that actually kind of fries the brain for a moment. So if you think back, should we stop this now or should we do something else? Either way, we're going to stop it. But it also shifts that control back to the individual who was trying to be controlled or manipulated. Not for any detrimental effect, but just being able to stop that verbal attack or insults getting worse. And a third great tip is sometimes it can be important to just laugh and join in. Now this of course depends on the kind of verbal insult and attack and situation that's going on right now, so it might not always be appropriate. And sometimes in these kind of situations it may be just safe and more appropriate to be able to walk away from the situation and ignore it. But sometimes to be able to laugh and join in means that we're not actually taking it so seriously. It's not having the same power, control and effect as that individual was trying to put on the other person. And therefore, actually, it just dissipates the situation and everyone laughs and joins in. And it doesn't necessarily have the effect that that other person wanted. So these are three quick examples. Of course, there are many more, but some simple tips to help a child manage and overcome verbal insults. So if you like this, please comment, like and share, and remember to subscribe so that you can keep up to date and be first on the list to be notified of my next video release.